We're following breaking news. Myanmar has been rocked by a powerful earthquake. The initial quake, measured at 7.7 magnitude, struck at 11:50 a.m. local time, according to the National Centre for Seismology. It hit at a depth of 10 kilometres, with the epicenter recorded at latitude 21.93 north and longitude 96.07 east. Since then, at least 12 aftershocks have been registered, including a massive 8.2 magnitude tremor near Mandalay. The Thai Meteorological Department reports that the impact was felt across the region, with tremors reaching Bangkok around 1:20 p.m. The intense shaking caused several high-rise buildings in the city to sway, with some collapsing entirely. Authorities are still assessing the full extent of the damage as rescue efforts continue. A hospital in the Myanmar has given an initial death toll of around 20. Meanwhile, in Thailand, at least 3 people have been confirmed dead, and 90 others are still missing after a building collapsed due to powerful tremors. Rescue efforts are underway as authorities race against time to find survivors. We are now joined by anchor and correspondent Joshua Barnes to discuss this further. What can you tell me about some breaking news coming in now, Joshua?
Yes, absolutely. So we are, of course, aware of the situation that is ongoing. You mentioned already an 8.2 magnitude earthquake striking in Myanmar, central Myanmar, near Mandalay, the second largest city. 12 aftershocks, as you've mentioned, and rescue efforts are ongoing across Myanmar and also in Bangkok, which was also hit by these aftershocks and has also seen the collapse of a building. 3 confirmed dead in Bangkok, potentially 81 people still missing in the rubble. Now, looking at Myanmar, you mentioned there the death toll. Official death toll is currently 20, however, realistically we're looking at a lot more. The communication out of Myanmar is difficult. There's an ongoing civil war, which means social media is not easily accessible, especially to the outer countries around the world. We've also seen damage to communication lines, seen a lack of internet, a lack of phone lines, meaning that the real impact and the current devastation that we've seen is probably not being reflected. Emergency rescue workers have said they're expecting the deaths to be in the hundreds. The reality is that could be rising further. We will continue to bring you more updates on the ground as we get them, but the situation is, of course, dire. The daylight is now fading, operations will be going into the night, and we can't forget that the impact of these buildings that have fallen over, specifically in Myanmar, roads being torn up, fissures being created in vital traffic ways that have been used to aid these rescue efforts. We're looking at a situation where they've been hampered, and the rescue continuing to happen will be hampered by the building collapses. Devastating situation in Myanmar and Thailand. There is going to be a wide global support. We've heard world leaders coming on to social media platforms, speaking publicly about the support that they are willing to provide, ready and waiting, also issuing warnings to expats living in Thailand and Myanmar, asking them to follow the emergency service guidelines. Unprecedented repercussions in Myanmar off the back of this earthquake, and it is something that will continue to develop, and we'll have more breaking news updates as we get them.
Joshua, what can you tell me about the main differences between Myanmar and Thailand? Obviously, earthquakes no borders, but what can you tell me about what we know about how this earthquake has affected both of these countries, and also how do you think that the government and the people of the countries might be affected themselves?
Well, yes, absolutely. Both Thailand and Myanmar stand on different levels of the economic ladder. Myanmar, a struggling country that has been in the grips of a civil war, a bloody civil war since 2021. There are, of course, reports of humanitarian crises as well inside of Myanmar, and this will only exacerbate those issues. Thailand is a much more developed country. It's also not as close to the epicenter of where this earthquake was recorded. So the direct impact on Thailand will be lesser. That building that I mentioned earlier that has come down in Bangkok, a real outlier, that building was under construction, making it vulnerable and weak to toppling, which is what happened. I think what we'll see is a potential death toll rising in Myanmar and continuing to rise. Well, the situation in Thailand should be more stable. A state of emergency, a declaration of emergency in Bangkok, we understand has been lifted now, and they're working more on moving people away from the areas that have been affected and returning people back home. The situation in Myanmar is more unclear, but we're expecting mass devastation on a level that is truly, truly worrying for those living within Myanmar. You mentioned, of course, in that question as well, the government. Myanmar are currently under rule of the Myanmar junta, who took over when they overthrew the government and started that civil war that I mentioned. The junta themselves have raged in that civil war and fought sort of other forces, other rebel forces that aren't associated with the junta, and we are expecting to see a reaction from them. Now, they have already called for global aid support. They will definitely need as much support as they can get, and we will wait to see what these Western leading economies will do in order to help assist the rebuilding of an utterly devastated Myanmar.
Joshua, thank you very much. We obviously know a lot more about this situation, as Joshua mentioned, from that is going on in Thailand, where things seem to have calmed down. The state of emergency seems to have been reeled back in Thailand. It still is maintained in those 6 junta-controlled regions of Myanmar, but Thailand is obviously rescue efforts are still ongoing, and there is severe congestion in Bangkok, and the quakes are likely to force train suspensions, cause traffic, and obviously you have these 90 people who are still being in a rescue mission. As you can see from the images there, I mean, the scale of this, the destruction is just absolutely vast. They might look, those you can see an ambulance to scale of how huge that damage really is. Okay, we move on now. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy has responded to the devastating earthquakes in Myanmar. He is urging all British nationals in the country and in Thailand to follow government advice. Some more news where earthquake deaths could reach tens of thousands. We will move back to Joshua once again from the NewsX World Newsroom. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Joshua, what more information can you give me?
Yes, absolutely. So the US have said that the death toll from this earthquake could reach into the thousands. Now that's of course a much vaster number, a much more tragic number than the one that we're currently getting. This ties back into what we mentioned earlier about the reporting and the difficulty in communications. We can compare this to an earthquake of a similar size which struck in Turkey and also impacted Syria. This took place in 2023. The death toll from that earthquake topped 55,000. Given the state of the country in Myanmar, given the difficulty, the humanitarian crises, the ongoing civil war, experts are saying this couldn't have come at a worse time for the people of Myanmar. Death toll figures currently remain low, but we're expecting hundreds, if not thousands, to be confirmed as these rescue efforts continue.
Joshua, we've obviously seen the state of emergency declaration pulled back by Thailand. Are these rescue efforts the main focus now in both countries?
Yes, well, we'll talk about Thailand first and Bangkok, which has been hit the most by this earthquake. That building that I mentioned earlier that you alluded to, falling, that was under construction. We know that there were around 320 workers at the scene at the time that the building collapsed. The number has continued to update. The latest official report that we've had is that 81 people are feared to be missing inside of the building. This will indeed be the continued focus of Thai authorities. The Thai Prime Minister visited the sites and said that investigations would continue, searches and rescue efforts would continue. 3 people have confirmed to have died in this building collapse. The situation in Myanmar is vastly different. We don't have a clear image, but because the epicenter of this quake was in central Myanmar, located near Mandalay, a city that is reasonably densely populated with 1.5 million approximate inhabitants, we are expecting that the damaged buildings, the potential damaged buildings which we could see, we can't confirm yet, but we are expecting, we could see that having more of an impact on civilian life. It is a sort of wait and see game, although we do know, of course, as I mentioned, previous situations are seen in Turkey following the earthquake there. So one to keep an eye on, but definitely not a good situation for those living in Thailand and Myanmar.
We have breaking news coming down in. Thank you very much, Joshua. Earthquake deaths could reach tens of thousands. US experts warn tens of thousands of people could have died in today's quakes, according to a revised estimate from US reports. We reported earlier today that the US Geological Survey thought that thousands could have been killed by the tremors in Asia. But the USGS has now changed its estimate, saying that tens of thousands could be dead. Last updated at 10:32 a.m. UK time. The US government agency noted that the population in this region resides in structures that are vulnerable to earthquakes. Shaking through resistant structures exist. We are looking at now at visuals of this earthquake, the impact it has on people's homes, the swaying, obviously. Joshua, you are joined by us once again. Thank you for joining us. What can we expect of the international response to this earthquake? You previously mentioned the earthquake in Turkey that happened, that was also felt in Syria. Given the past and also given the current geopolitical situation and the current geopolitical situation facing the world, obviously you have Donald Trump in office, you have the Ukraine war, you have tension in the Middle East happening. What sort of response can we expect from powerful countries across the world that have the capabilities to offer aid?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the military junta have already said that they are requesting international aid efforts. They've already said that they need the support because the situation in Myanmar will be devastating, as we've mentioned. We've heard from several world leaders already, starting off with the EU chief, Ursula von der Leyen, who has said that the bloc nations will, of course, be monitoring the situation and be ready to provide support if they need to. Similar sentiments coming from the French foreign minister, who says they are assessing the situation and will provide aid where needed. This is a rhetoric that is being continued across the globe. David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, also saying that the UK will be ready and is watching and monitoring these situations. Narendra Modi as well commenting on social media along with the Foreign Ministry. So there has been a global sort of support network and a global leader level conversation happening about the rebuild effort that will need to take place. You mentioned Donald Trump there, and I think it's interesting to sort of monitor what Donald Trump's stance on this will be. We know one of his big policy agendas when he came in was cutting the amount of money that the United States was spending on aid. It's a massive thing that we've spoken about lots of times, of course, over recent days and weeks on this programme. He's cut US aid, which was providing support to millions of people around the world facing humanitarian crises, facing hunger, facing drought, facing war-torn regions and conflicts that have been raging on. The question is, does he change that policy and that agenda that he has set? He's made it clear that the US is giving out too much and not receiving enough. Does that change given the sort of uncertainty and the sporadic nature of this earthquake? Nobody was expecting it. Nobody was ready for it. The impact, therefore, we can expect to be devastating. So the US is definitely one to watch. I expect the European nations, the bloc nations, the regional nations to step up and support where they can. But you mentioned it there, we are in a period of geopolitical instability, wars raging across continents, across the world, and finances are running low. There are cost of living crises across the globe, and countries are already debating, and there are discussions already taking place in governments of countries across the world around the current living standards versus the aid that is being paid out to countries like Ukraine, like Israel, like Gaza, in Palestine, also looking at Russia as well. The ongoing conflicts that we're seeing. One place which that ongoing conflict was happening is Myanmar. So this really is the worst time for an earthquake to hit that country, hit the war-torn country. But I'm sure, and we have heard already, that world leaders from top economies will be stepping up to support where they can and how they can.
Joshua, what is going to be the main humanitarian concerns for people after this earthquake? You obviously have two very contrasting countries most affected. You have Thailand, and you also have Myanmar. Give us some examples of the assistance that someone from Thailand will need, as opposed to someone who is affected in the country of Myanmar.
Well, yes, near the building in Thailand that has fallen down, where there are 81 people that are believed to be trapped, with 3 people dying. There have been set up facilities. We have seen water drinking facilities set up, and also restrooms. Now, this is more to tackle the issue of congestion. Of course, a lot of chaos, a lot of people going home. Schools have been shut. That announcement coming from the Thai government a couple of hours ago. So what we're seeing there is more of a management of the situation. Of course, damage to buildings and damage to infrastructure will be a costly job to repair for the Thai government, but the loss of life, we're not expecting it to be on the same level as that in Myanmar. Myanmar, a less developed country. Myanmar, a country, as mentioned, already ravaged with infighting, with civil war. Humanitarian crises already at play in Myanmar. So given this is where the epicenter of the earthquake was, and as we know, the epicenter is the real sort of exact point in which the extreme shakes and tremors are felt, and there are lots of buildings in Myanmar that won't be modern and won't have the facilities set up to withstand this level of earthquake. So although we haven't had reports, we are expecting severe damage to infrastructure. That will have a cost. We know that hospitals will be overcrowded. There will be people who are getting routine services, operations, end of life care. This is going to throw a huge spanner into the works, because the number of casualties that we're expecting, the number of injuries we're expecting, the rescue efforts are going to truly stretch the emergency services. And that will, of course, need to be supported, whether that's through food and aid, medical equipment and medical resources. We're also potentially looking at a need for boots on the ground. The image and the picture of Myanmar is still unclear, but given the level of the earthquake and the severity of it, the situation is expected to be a dire one.
Thank you very much, Joshua. I wanted to talk about these two countries once again, and how the international response to both, how they might be. And also, given what are you talk about Myanmar having a humanitarian crisis, what is the short and the long term effects of this earthquake going to be? I do apologise, we have some breaking news coming in. Pagoda topples southeast of Mandalay, the country's second largest city, which sits close to where the epicenter of the quake was identified. The earthquake is knocking out electricity and internet in several areas, including Mandalay and Sadejing. The Red Cross reports significant damage in multiple regions, including Nay Pyi Taw, Bago and southern Shan. Internet watchdog NetBlocks confirms widespread connectivity disruptions due to power cuts, telecom lines complicating rescue operations. There are also growing concerns about potential damage to the large dams in the affected areas. So essentially what is happening in these both of these countries is destruction. There is destruction throughout both Myanmar and Thailand. We go back to Joshua once again. Would you say, Joshua, apart from this state of emergency, this state of emergency is being rolled back in Thailand. What would you say is the situation in Thailand right now, and also the situation in Myanmar right now?
Yes, well, we've heard from authorities in Thailand that the situation is improving. We do expect that to happen, given that the major shocks and the major tremors from this earthquake and the following aftershocks have now been felt. The initial quake of 8.2 magnitude, then there was a 6.4 magnitude aftershock, and it's just been getting lower and lower. So in Thailand, they're not expecting any more major impacts from earthquakes as it stands. Of course, the uncertainty of global tectonic movement is something that scientists spend years of their life trying to understand, and there is that unpredictability, but for all intents and purposes this situation is now not going to worsen in Thailand as it stands, meaning that the cleanup efforts, meaning that the recovery efforts and the return of people to their homes and normal life can continue. That, of course, is because Thailand is a more developed country. The situation in Myanmar is not the same. A country ravaged by war is not in the same standing to recover from this as quickly. And as I've mentioned already, Myanmar is where the epicenter of this quake is. That can't be forgotten. We showed a great visual earlier on this program which showed you the different areas of dispersion from this quake. And the center that we see close to Mandalay, a city populated by 1.5 million people, the tremors felt there will be vastly stronger than what is felt in Thailand, what's been felt in other bordering nations, China, Bangladesh, and even some in India as well. The situation is completely different. The understanding of the situation is also completely different. We don't know as much about the situation of what's happening in Myanmar. We do know electricity and internet is down in a lot of areas, meaning that we may not get a proper report on the severity of this situation.
I have to interrupt. We have some breaking coming in. Myanmar's military junta has issued a rare plea for international humanitarian aid after the devastating earthquake struck by the country. The regime has declared a state of emergency across 6 regions as rescue efforts intensify. Junta chief Min Aung Hlaing was seen visiting a hospital in Nay Pyi Taw, where the wounded are being treated. The quake, which hit central Myanmar, has caused widespread damage, with authorities now seeking global assistance to manage the crises. Joshua, you are back with us once again. We have seen both the Thai Prime Minister Phay Tong Tan and also the Myanmar government respond to this. How How important is it in these kind of times to have a strong leader in these situations to make the right decisions diplomatically and with humanitarian aid as well? And also, how are these governments so different?
Yes, well, if faced by any natural disaster, of course, the efforts from the government, for the ruling party, for the leading military junta, as we have in Myanmar's case, needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be effective. With Myanmar's case, we're potentially looking at tens of thousands of casualties, a mass casualty event that will have repercussions across the board, economic, of course emotional, the people living there losing members of their family, losing their homes, but also the sort of steps that need to be put in place for the recovery. A country devastated to the level that we're potentially going to see in Myanmar, that rebuild is going to be extremely costly. Now, it's a different situation, but in Syria we've seen a civil war rage for over 10 years, and the UN have said that if the Syrian government are going to continue to grow on the trajectory that they are, it's going to take 80 years for them to rebuild their economy to where it was before the civil war. Now, a global event like this can have a similar impact, and it can happen quickly. The devastation that we're expecting to see with buildings are going to need to be rebuilt, and that plan needs to be clear and concise, and there may need to be support from outside of Myanmar to deal with that. The governments, of course, are different. The Thai PM has faced pressure recently, but there is much more of a stable democracy in Thailand when compared to Myanmar. As you mentioned already, the ongoing civil war that has been raging for 4 years now has not been letting up. There's been fighting and deaths reported continuously over the last months and years. So the situation in Myanmar before this earthquake was dire. This just adds to it and extenuates those circumstances more. I think any plan for Myanmar will see global support. We expect the UN to be heavily involved. We expect Western nations, allied Western nations, to come together and provide that support. But really, it is a devastating time for those in Myanmar and the ruling Myanmar junta.
Yes, thank you, Joshua. We are seeing a developing situation in both countries, but we have a much clearer image here of Bangkok, given the fact that that Myanmar is junta ruled. The Thai Prime Minister has said that the situation in Thailand is starting to ease. And now we have a guest with us, Anand Sharma, former Additional Director of General Meteorological. Thank you very much for joining us. Anand, how significant is an earthquake like this? Some saying 7.7, some saying 8.2. Could you give us a bit of an explanation of the type of devastation this does and how something like this comes about and the possible future environmental consequences of an event like this?
See, first, it is, as per USGS, it is 7.7 magnitude on Richter scale. And naturally, 7.7 is it's a big earthquake with, the kind of energy which is released as a result of such a large earthquake. And secondly, the epicenter was just at a depth of 10 kilometers and very near to a highly densely populated city, Mandalay. So I expect huge damage in that particular area to property as well as to the life. So we expect more. Secondly, this area is close to the fault, as Indian and Sunda plates are, they are here meeting at this particular place, and this is very, ideal, or I should say ideal place for earthquakes to happen. And in the past also, if you see on 23rd March 1839, there was a earthquake of magnitude 8.2, and that time the city Ava was totally destroyed. And so naturally, we have not learned anything from the past, And as far as future is concerned, definitely there will be, because it's earthquake prone area. So we
Yes.
expect similar events to happen in future as well. So for what we need to do is that, like the Japanese have done, Japan is also highly prone to the very huge earthquakes of the intensity 7 to 8. The kind of building design they have implemented, so I think the damages are drastically reduced. But what happens is that basically, if you don't have a strong government, and especially if you lack in good governance, then the problem increases manifold, because your focus is not on, taking what you call as mitigation measures. So I doubt any mitigation measures are in place. No building design was, proper building code or design was followed. So as a result of that, the damages are going to be
Yes.
very, in a very large number. So,
what's going to be the long-term, both short-term and long-term consequences of this disaster, and how should both governments respond, given the nature of them both, the very different nature of them both?
first thing is that, because the infrastructure like bridges, roads, buildings, schools, colleges, hospitals, all must have, many of the buildings must have perished in the vicinity where the epicenter is located. So naturally the economy will go, back to 20 years, and it will be very difficult. You need huge amount of money to restore. So that's a big issue. So I think Myanmar, I don't know, and especially I was hearing other channels that the kind of, governance there, there are some kind of intrinsic wars are going on, sort of things. So it's not a very healthy condition to act. So definitely, you need lots of financial support immediately.
Yes.
I'm
very sorry, I have to interrupt very briefly. We have some breaking news coming in. Myanmar Shadow Foreign Minister has said that the situation is very serious and urgent need for international humanitarian aid and technical help. We also have another new update, where a doctor at a major hospital in the capital of Myanmar has reported at least 20 dead following the devastating earthquake, as scenes of chaos unfold outside the hospital's emergency department. And I want to come back to you, please. Would you mind continuing with what the hospital should, what the government should do, and how also how the landscapes of these two countries make this such a devastating thing to deal with?
The landscape is concerned, it lies in the fault zone. That means we expect regular earthquakes there, and that too of the magnitude of 7 and 8. So it's a highly earthquake prone area. Now question comes, in such an area, especially your buildings where large number of people are there, like for schools, colleges, or hospitals. And hospitals, especially these structures should be earthquake resistant. So was that kind of planning gone into the construction of these buildings? I doubt. And because it has not been done, so there will be damages. I think most of the developing countries, this is the big issues. Wherever we have seen in the past, I think in some Western countries also it has happened. That, they had not taken proper care of the buildings, etc., and lots of damages were there. So this is one major lesson. If you are in an earthquake prone area, your building design should be such that the buildings, especially the major buildings, should be earthquake resistant, like your hospitals, schools, and colleges. And in addition to that, if you are constructing multi-story buildings, they should again have the latest technology which can withstand 8 Richter magnitude earthquakes. But that's not happening, but it should be. The second thing, drills. They should have regularly drills how to react under such conditions. So that preparedness, I think that is also not available in such countries. And immediately they will be requiring lots of financial assistance. Even they will be requiring rescue help in rescue operation. And I think already our Prime Minister, I was hearing somewhere, they have assured that if they request, the government's request, Indian government will be more than happy to help them. We have excellent NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, which has lots of experience and have already contributed in Nepal and other nearby regions. So
yes.
if Burma's government requests us, Indian government will definitely there to help them.
And the Thai government has obviously declared this situation now safe. People can return back into can go back inside to avoid danger in that regard. But there was a lot of banding around of this term aftershock. What exactly is an aftershock, and why do they happen? And also, are these as dangerous as the initial earthquakes?
Yes. See, whenever you have a huge earthquake of more than 7 magnitude on Richter scale, after that it is seen that there are a series of aftershocks of lesser intensity, 6 point, like you had a 6.4. So we still expect 6, 5 like that, and slowly it will die down. But yes, that is why, suppose already there is a building which have developed cracks and it's in a precarious conditions, so people should not enter into it. They should remain away from it because we are still expecting aftershocks. And it's a normal thing which happens after a big earthquake comes. So for safety reasons, people should stay away from the buildings which have already developed cracks, or maybe they are little tilting because already the damage has been done. So yes, we expect, and of course their magnitude will not be now 7. It will be definitely less, 6.4 and 5 like that. It will continue for maybe a few days. So one has to be careful.
And I want you to kind of, if we can kind of demonstrate this somehow, but figure out how to give an example of how powerful a 7.7 magnitude earthquake is. In regards to the 5.41 that hit after the earthquake. How can we go about comparing this, I guess? What kind of damage will a 7 magnitude earthquake as opposed to a 2 or a 3?
Yeah, it's like this, first I'll say difference between 6 and 7. So a 6, if you have a 6 magnitude earthquake on Richter scale and you have a 7, so the 7 one, although it looks only one scale up, but actually the energy is 10 times more. So it is 10 times more damaging. And suppose it is 3, so you can imagine 3 to 4, 10 times. Again, 5, 10 times, so it becomes 100. So, I mean, it is logarithmic. It's not like, so you can imagine 6 to 7, it changes. It has 10 times more potential to do damage.
Yes, yes. And how do you think, and let's say we have an earthquake what's going to be the initial reaction from people, and when people are watching this, how can people stay safe from an earthquake if one starts to happen?
Many people have not been taught how to react. Many times what happens when the earthquake comes immediately, people don't know what to do. They sort of freeze. They don't know what to do. And especially if they are in very tall buildings, high-rise structures, if there's a 15 or 20-story buildings, then definitely they don't know what to do, because the general guidelines are that whenever there is an earthquake or this kind of thing, you should not take to the lift. That means you have to take a staircase. So how can you come down from a 20-story building just to the ground? And all this thing happens in a very short period of time. So that's one thing. Second thing is, if it's a very highly densely populated area with narrow lanes and high-rise buildings on both sides, then even if you get out of the building, you are still trapped. So its only thing is we have to have such kind of building design where you have open spaces so that people can easily move it. But then it becomes very difficult. So only solution here is that first thing is regular drill should be there so that people are taught what to do. And there are certain areas in the building where you have, like the main pillars going on where there is more strength. So one can go there, or table, that kind of thing under that. But question comes when it is 7.7 thing, and that too, epicenter is nearby, it becomes very, very difficult to do anything.
One final question, Anand. What causes an earthquake? Are these things being are they increasing in number? Are they the same as they've always been? Is there any factors that are affecting the number of earthquakes that are coming along? Is there going to be any consequences? Maybe a tsunami, something like that. These are all factors that we're wondering.
One thing is that, if you see, lakhs of earthquakes come every year, from small 2-3 magnitude, which normally, they're recorded, but they're not told to this thing. And then we have moderate earthquake and the large earthquakes. So in general, not any much difference in any frequency. So it's a regular feature. And as long as we have earth, we have this plates, different plates colliding with each other, we will keep getting the earthquakes. So it's a normal kind of things, and then the other part was, how do? Hello? Yeah. What was the second part? Yes.
I was wondering if they're increasing, if these earthquakes are increasing.
No. Actually, what is happening is that now the observation network is increasing. Yes. So now the detection.
I do apologise, Anand. We have to come back. We've got some breaking news coming in. The Thai Prime Minister visits a collapsed construction site after Myanmar quake tremor. We have the visuals coming in there. There she is, next to absolute vast amount of damage there in the city of Bangkok. Prime Minister Peng Tongtan, who has previously had opposition, has recently had opposition facing a no confidence motion, but will now have to unite the country after this tragedy. Anand, we come back to you. Apologies for interrupting. As you were saying, these thousands of these earthquakes happen every year. You're saying, was this just bad luck?
Every day you have earthquake happening somewhere, just like a thunderstorm happening anywhere in the globe. So these are natural phenomena, they will keep happening. And over the year, if you see, there are lakhs of earthquakes happening on the earth. So because as long as we have this plates, big plates moving, and at the plate boundaries where there are faults, we get, naturally there are two plates. If they are colliding with each other and suddenly you see one moving above the other. So that time you feel the shocks, and it could be even large. So I won't say that the number is increasing, detection is increasing. One. Second thing is, as you said, tsunami. Generally, if an earthquake happens with its epicenter even in the ocean or near the coast, and its magnitude is more than 6.5 on Richter scale, then a tsunami warning is issued. So it may cause tsunami, it may not cause, because Mandalay is in the central part of the Myanmar. So although I think I heard somewhere that tsunami warning has been issued, but it's not necessary that it will come. So, but it's better to take a precaution.
One final question, Anand Sharma. Thank you very much for joining us. But can we expect hope coming from this? How will these rescue efforts go on, do you think? And given earthquakes that have happened in the past, what are the long-term effects that countries still feel today from events like these?
Rescue is the first priority now, but again, I'm not sure how good is that government, whether there is a good governance prevailing there. Somebody was saying there are internal riots happening, so that kind of stability is not there. But whenever there is such kind of event, people generally unite together. So that I hope they will all unite together and focus on rescue. One. Second thing, they definitely need international support, and India will definitely be there to help them. Thirdly, what happens is, whenever such big calamity happens, you are back by 20 years because all your infrastructure, major infrastructure near Mandalay will be destroyed or must have gone destroyed. So naturally, it will take huge amount of money, effort, and resources to build them back. So definitely your economy is, back by 20, 20, 30 years. So that is why they say, mitigation. So you should, hazards will always be there. Natural hazards will always be there. It's only that if we plan well, then we can prevent this hazard getting converted to disaster. So why people are dying? Because the building design is not proper. Once you know that, your area is high.
Anand Sharma, sorry, once again we have a breaking news coming in. The Thai Prime Minister says that Bangkok high rises remain strong after powerful earthquakes. She also says the situation in the country is stabilising after the powerful earthquake and assures that residents that it is safe to return indoors as emergency crews continue assessments. Officials confirm that 12 aftershocks have been recorded since the quake, but there is no risk of a tsunami at this time. We have one more update. Anand Sharma, Thailand's Prime Minister, says the situation in the country is stabilising after the powerful earthquake. He assures residents it's safe to return indoors as emergency crews continue assessments. Officials confirm that 12 aftershocks have been recorded since the quake, but there is no risk of the tsunami at the time. If you've just joined us, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake was recorded in Myanmar around 6 hours ago now. I also want to thank our guest Anand Sharma for joining us. I just want to give viewers a brief synopsis of what's happened. 7.7 magnitude earthquake recorded in Myanmar with obviously effects felt in Bangkok as well, where there has been serious damage in the capital of Thailand, which is hundreds of miles away from the epicenter of this earthquake. There's reports of a construction site. This is ongoing in Thailand, where we have more information, more than Myanmar, which is where the epicenter of this earthquake was. So in regards to this situation, ongoing situation in Bangkok, there is 90 people missing and 3 people dead in this collapsed high-rise skyscraper in Bangkok. Bangkok has since withdrawn its state of emergency that it had held previously. It is now helping those that are most affected by using parks for water points, for toilets, to avoid congestion around the city. In regards to Myanmar is obviously much more severely hit. Myanmar was obviously facing a humanitarian crisis. We have some breaking news coming in. Thai Prime Minister says Bangkok high-rises remain strong after powerful earthquake. We did see that, apart from that one that fell and is currently subject to 90 people missing. As I was saying before, previously in Myanmar, we have not got as much information from there due to the military rule of the junta, which have limited media use there from its citizens, and also state-owned media. So it's hard to get reliable information. It's hard for the citizens of Myanmar to get information out to the Western world, to the rest of the world. And however, we do have some information that it is confirmed at least 20 people dead. But some experts say that since this country is it was the epicenter of the quake, that it is going to be much, much, much severely hit, particularly in the city that the epicenter was the most near. Josh, we are joined once again by Josh Barnes. Josh, what have you got to tell us about this ongoing situation?
Yes, I just want to build off the information that you were just talking about. The lack of information that we currently have on the situation in Myanmar is, of course, difficult, but we do have some comparisons that we can make. Now, there is information coming out about the extremity of this quake compared to a recent earthquake that we saw in Turkey, just providing some context on how strong this earthquake was and how rare this situation is in Myanmar. The last time a quake of this strength was seen was 1946. The last earthquake above 7 on the Richter scale was in 1991. But I alluded to that earthquake in 2023 that we saw recently in Turkey, which killed more than 50,000 people. To give you an idea of the number of people who were directly affected by this earthquake, people who experienced and were exposed to the violent shaking, in Turkey that was 750,000. Now, what we've seen in this earthquake in Myanmar, hitting near Mandalay in central Myanmar, is that it's affected 800,000 people. So that gives you some context there. Another really important bit of information that provides some context on quite how many people are impacted by this quake is the number who have experienced violent and severe shaking. That's level 8 and 9 shaking. During this earthquake in Turkey in 2023, that number was 2.7 million people. To give you an idea, that's 5 million now in
Joshua, in
and around Mandalay.
We have to interrupt for breaking news where Thailand's Prime Minister says the country is stabilising after the powerful earthquake. He assures that residents that it is safe to return indoors as emergency crews continue assessments. Officials continue that 12 aftershocks have been recorded since the quake, but there is no risk of a tsunami at this time. Moving on, we are now joined by Prashanta Kumar Shil, academician and political commentator, joining us from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Thank you very much for joining us. Prashanta, this quake was felt from Bangladesh, wasn't it? What does that say about the magnitude of this earthquake?
Yes, so now that the Bangladesh is in safe mode, that the plate is the same. You can talk about the plate, the Myanmar, also in Mizoram, Nagaland, and Bangladesh, and especially in Chittagong, so all of the hilly area, and the plate are the same plate. And we are very surprised to see that the epicenter of the Myanmar, where the earthquake is happening, is a 100 mile from between the Nay Pyi Taw, and it's actually in alert positions from nowadays. We talk about the geologists and seismographers. Thoroughly mentioned that these areas too much, very much dangerous for the earthquake, not from the they can mention for 1 or 2. It's a 10 years alarming situation. These areas is a alarming situation. We have an already experience in Indonesian tsunami, and also here, that's already now happening in Malaysia. Now, what is the next target? We have to know that this is a very rustic area, and also here from Myanmar, and also that the Myanmar is the collapse. We don't know what is happening to Myanmar at the present time, because there is an that the political insurgency is here, so lots of issues here. So that the 6 cities, the Myanmar government already declared that is in here, that an emergency situations, and the cities is here from Basangai, Mandalay, Megawai, and Bago and Shan. So all of the important, and some cities are densely cities. And so, the surprising to know that we have a talk about that Thailand. We know that everything's in here, but we are still now not the clear what the situation in Myanmar nowadays, because we know that there is some the normal life is too much collapse from the internet, the human needs, the basic needs, and all of the collapse from road, electricity, and everything's happening. The damage casualty already, the US surveillance team mentioned that is 100,000 already crossed, but my prediction is more than 2,000 people are with damage if we haven't found that after 3 or 4 days we have been calculated. So that is devastating, and it's a very much pathetic, and another we have been happening from after the tsunami, and it's a remarkable period for that.
Prashanta, what's going to be the long-term effects of this? Obviously, Myanmar already had a humanitarian crisis happening at the time of this earthquake after its junta takeover in 2021. One that springs to mind as well is the one that happened in Haiti in 2010, which was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. So not as powerful as this one. What do you think that the long-term effects of this this earthquake is going to be, both in a humanitarian aspect? I do apologise. I'm going to have to interrupt you before you, but I'll come back to you. Passengers at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi airport face long waits for baggage, along with some flights delayed following a strong earthquake in neighbouring Myanmar that has rattled Bangkok. Some breaking news coming in there. Prashanta, would you mind if we went back to my question? So what is going to be the long-term effects of this earthquake?
Yes, there's a long-term effect. You know that after we know that the what a casualty is here. Still now there is some lots of that the building collapsed, but we have not a rescue. The first the thing you have to rescue the people, because there is a road had collapsed, building had collapsed. So a high-story building. We were surprised to see it in Thailand. That is a 20-story building. Lots of stories the building in here, in also in Nay Pyi Taw and the Mindanao and all the cities in the Myanmar and here. So that is the first thing from the government now. The first target you have to rescue the people, because the people's life is very much important for them. You know that the political situation in Myanmar is very much disturbing. You know that there is some rival groups are here, the junta versus there is some Arakan army, and also the Rohingya issues here. So that they have the ethnicity problem in Myanmar. They have it from here. Their economic collapse, political situation is disturbing, and this time another happening from that is a natural disaster. It's very alarming. You know that all the people live in very peaceful and very wonderful life, because we are the people, we are the world. But what is happening the present time is very surprising. Is already humanitarian done. And that's my observation, personal observation. This time Myanmar cannot overcome these issues only from Myanmar. It needs the United Nations funding. It needs the Asian-based, all the countries they have been enforcing. There is a logistic support and blah blah blah. So there is lots of helping hand need if they haven't overcome it. Otherwise, very impossible. You can talk about 2,000, 3,000 is not. The figure is very much miserable condition, yes. Because that the suffering from their food, nutrition, and you can just survive after next days we have happening. We have to see that.
Prashanta Kumar Shil, thank you very much for joining us. We have some more breaking news coming in. Humanitarian agency Amnesty International has urged the Myanmar's ruling military junta to allow access to humanitarian aid for all areas affected by the damaging earthquake. There's some breaking news there coming in from Amnesty International. We are going to expect more agencies trying to get access to the country of Myanmar after even given its rule of the military junta who took over in 2021. The humanitarian situation in Myanmar was previously even before this earthquake a terror in a bad state. Ross Feingold joins us now, political risk analyst, joining us from Taipei. Ross, how can you? What I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think the long terms of this earthquake is going to be, particularly on the country of Myanmar, whose economy isn't as strong as Thailand's, and what are both the economic and humanitarian consequences, both short-term and long-term, for both Thailand and Myanmar?
These are great questions because, as you've been discussing, the situation in Myanmar before the earthquake was very bleak, with many parts of the country under the control of rebel groups and outside the control of the military junta that still controls the central government. If we look back to recent historical examples, in 2004, when the Boxing Day tsunami hit, that was actually an impetus for rebels in the Aceh province of Indonesia to reach a peace agreement with the central government that devolved a lot of authority to the local government, and it ended a long-running insurgency. Is that going to be possible in the long term? It looks unlikely, and I'd be very hesitant to say that this is going to cause the various rebel groups to reach a peace agreement with the military that rules Myanmar at the moment. We can't exclude that possibility, but it does seem unlikely. In the short term, most immediately, and the thing to watch is how does Myanmar's government interact with the international community, given the situation where so many countries have reduced their interaction with Myanmar's government in protest of the military overthrowing the democratically elected government in 2021. So in the short term, the thing to watch is how does the military government interact with foreign countries, including the United States and other Western countries. So that'll definitely be something to watch. In Thailand, they've also had a fair amount of political instability in recent years. There was a coup and the military maintained control for many years until recent elections, when the opposition finally was able to take over governance of the country, although they did have to make certain political bargains with the military and politicians who were formerly in the military. So this is going to be a big test for Prime Minister Shinawatra and how she handles this situation.
Ross, you've seen President Donald Trump cut US aid with the Department of Government Efficiency. You've also seen places like the UK cut their foreign aid as well. Given in an event like this happening, do you see these Western countries? How do you see these Western countries responding to this event with these current administrations, and also the current economic climate of these countries?
I think we'll see Western countries provide aid to the extent that they have the goods to send. Do they have water, packages of water, packages of medical supplies, things that people need on an everyday basis in the most near term, coming days and coming weeks? Do they have rations of food that they could send as well into the disaster zone? Again, the military government has to be willing to allow foreign Air Force to land their aircraft at airports and military bases, Air Force bases in Myanmar. So that'll be something to watch as well. But yeah, it's a great question to ask about the United States with basically the near total shutdown of USAID. We do have a domestic-focused emergency management agency in the United States, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, often known by its acronym FEMA. I'm sure they have supplies. They would have to be flown from the United States by military aircraft, of course. So we'll have to see, how much aid is the United States willing to provide. And to be frank, it does kind of clash with President Trump's America First policy. His first instinct might be that this is not an American problem, but I think the United States will still provide some aid.
Ross Feingold, thank you so much for joining us. We are joined by Dr. O.P. Mishra, Director of Ministry of Earth Science, located in India, for further conversation on this. Dr. Mishra, how rare is an event like this in this part of the world?
Yeah, this is the actually occurrences of the Myanmar earthquake early in the morning today is an eye-opening that earthquake can hit anywhere, but it can impact even any places. It is not like that. It is located in the Myanmar, so only the happening in Myanmar dangerous. It is dangerous for our border state. That's why it is the transboundary earthquake which traveled from the Mandalay to Bangkok, about more than 1,100 kilometers. And there is a havoc damage happened. However, the northeast Indian cities, like the many states of Manipur, and there is closest to to Myanmar, it was not affected at all, but yes, some shaking they felt. That means it is the rupture directions of the earthquake, main shock earthquake, that dictates that how the damage will take the shape and where the damage will be more. So it was the 7.5 magnitude earthquake as per the National Center for Seismology by all the stations we used, and we found that this is the actually occurred in a zone where a lot of the 7 magnitude occurred, 7 and more magnitude occurred in the region. I would like to mention that 7.5 magnitude earthquake occurred in 1912, just 10 kilometers south of this epicenter. And 1956, it was just 5 kilometers, the epicenter, it was 7.2 magnitude.
Yes.
Lastly, so I would like to mention that this is not a puzzle. This is the zone which is already identified, that Sagaing fault is the dangerous for the earthquake genesis since the years. And it was between the two plates, that was the Myanmar plate to its east and the Sunda plate. And it was really very much stressed. So it was a strike slip fault, shallow depth fault causing that. The question is here is that you cannot predict the earthquake, but this is long-term prediction because of the fault base. It is Sagaing fault create all the earthquake 7.5. So precaution is your risk resilient building, earthquake risk resilient building is only the solution. And we found that entire the Asian countries is not taken care of in comparison to that of Japan, which is located in juxtaposition of the 4 plates, and even the India and the
Dr.
Eurasian plate.
Mishra, I'm very sorry, we have some breaking news coming in. Please stay with us. Myanmar's National Unity Government says its anti-junta forces will aid earthquake relief efforts. Top diplomat Zin Ma Ayung confirms the People's Defence Forces will provide humanitarian support. There's an update coming in there from Myanmar. One more question for you, Dr. Mishra. Why do these numbers of earthquakes seem to come all at once? Multiple earthquakes at once. There was a over 4 magnitude earthquake directly after this 7.71. Why does this happen?
Actually, the main shock is only one shock, that is the 7.7 or 7.5. After 10 to 15 minutes, there is a series of the aftershocks, which was actually trying to stabilize the energy by releasing the main shock energy. If some energy has not released totally, then they can start to release the energy because of the displacement of the all rock masses in the series. So we have now recorded 10 aftershocks of the magnitude up to 4.3 today. So this thing is that the series of the aftershocks is a good signature that how stabilization of the stress zone is taking place. More the aftershock, quickly aftershock of lower magnitude stabilization says that the energy is being drained out due to the main shock or whatever the seismic energy accumulated. So, but the worry is that if the some structure is half damaged, or is equal to maybe the partially damaged, or some equal to structures is about to fall or collapse, then that aftershocks is dangerous for those structures. So precautions must be taken in 24 hours of the main shock, that how the aftershock takes the shape. So it is good signature that 4.3 is now the lowest aftershocks we have already recorded, from 7.5 to 4.3. So this is a process. It is a process. If it is a stop, there is seismic rule, there is no aftershock, then this is dangerous. So the thing is that how quickly aftershock is releasing is good signature.
Dr. Jin Mishra, thank you very much for joining us. We are finally joined by Jay Shankar Mukherjee, Secretary of VHP Thailand, located in Thailand. Jay Shankar, thank you very much for joining us. How are you feeling? How are the people around you feeling after this significant event?
Well, I'm very scared. Most of my friends are very, very scared. We ran immediately out of the buildings. We came onto the streets. Entire streets got collapsed, and people were really trying to hide their body and especially the head. Buildings were shaking. Waters were coming up on the water pool. The swimming pools were bursting, and it was all happening in front of our eyes, and it was really, really scary. I am in Bangkok for last 20 years plus. Never seen such a thing.
Wow.
Never experienced such a thing in my life as well.
Jay Shankar, can you tell me what you were doing at this exact moment, and tell me what your first reaction was, what the people around you, what their first reaction was, what happened?
Well, for a change, I didn't go to office today. I was doing work from home and just was doing some work on my laptop. Suddenly, I felt tremor and immediately realized that it's earthquake. I called my house staff as well as my wife, told them to hide below the dining table because everything was shaking I mean, at a very high speed. So we couldn't tolerate anymore. We were hiding below the table, but it was such a big tremor. I immediately decided that let us evacuate the building. But unfortunately, I was on 21st floor, was trying to come down. It took some time, definitely. By the time the second earthquake hit us, and that was even worse, that was even bad, and the whole building was shaking. And it's not easy to come out of the 21st floor building. When I came down, the roads were absolutely full with people. People are running on the streets because everywhere it's high rise, and it was so difficult to find a place where we should hide ourselves or where we should find a safe place. It took some time for us. Yeah.
Jay Shankar, how is the government on the ground in Thailand and obviously their messaging? How effective has it been? Obviously there's no longer a state of emergency in Thailand. How was the whole government messaging, government action, aid? How was the whole thing worked on the whole city?
I'm sorry to interrupt. The best part, I would say the people were very, very calm and quiet. They were not reacting badly. Yes, they were running, but very silently. They were trying to find an empty place or a place where no high-rise buildings are there, but people were very cool. Government stopped all mass communication public transports immediately. All schools children were taken out to the nearby grounds. My daughter, could not even take out her phone from the bag. They were all told to evacuate the classes. And so I would say government took immediate steps to warn people that go to safe place, stay where you are, do not move much, but evacuate high-rise buildings.
So one of the reasons why one of these high-rise buildings fell is because that Thailand's not prone to earthquakes as much as Myanmar is, meaning that this kind of structure that is built to protect these high-rise buildings from falling like they have in Japan is not as present in Bangkok as usual. Do you think this is something after this that the government will think about doing?
You're absolutely right. That way buildings were shaking. As I said, I stay on 21st floor and my flat has multiple cracks and I'm planning not to stay tonight, at least in the flat. However, the shaking has absolutely stopped now. Aftershocks have come down, as the other gentleman, Mr. O.P. Modi, probably he described it. But we are not feeling secure. We will not stay in this cracked building. And government should take steps and ensure the Bangkok buildings, Thailand buildings are earthquake prone now. They didn't give much of attention towards this, but they had to focus in these areas. Absolutely. That's the need of the hour now.
One final question, Jay Shankar. How are the people of Thailand feeling? Are they in shock? Are they concerned? Are they angry? What are the people of Thailand feeling at least now initially?
Well, people are absolutely scared. They are not using, there's no way they can use public transport tonight. It's absolutely stopped until tomorrow morning. People are still walking on the streets while trying to going back to their home after office hours. Traffics are standstill, but people are, as I said, very calm, quiet. The biggest challenge now, all the convenience stores are closed. Hotels, restaurants, all the food supply vehicles are stopped. Nobody's moving. So I am apprehending a lot of people will go starving tonight. We'll definitely do some social activities, whatever we can to feed people. But government is also taking steps and requesting people to stay in nearby parks. They will ensure their public toilets are provided at night. Some water and biscuits are provided there, and some camps are provided there, makeshift camps. So I would say people are calm and quiet. They are taking measures to somehow spend this night.
We have some breaking news coming in right now. Thailand's Public Health Ministry reports hospital damage in 17 provinces after the earthquake. Minister Somsak Thersaptin orders agencies to assess impact and monitor updates from meteorological authorities. Jay Shankar, just one final question before we end this. Looking forward, how long do you think this the city of Bangkok is going to, and the country of Thailand is going to take to reel back from this event?
Very difficult, because people have never experienced such thing in their lifetime. Everybody was talking the same thing on streets. I think they will be scared until couple of days, but slowly they will come back to normalcy. Public transport will resume tomorrow morning. Emergency has already been lifted. Airport, I guess, already is been operational now. So government will try their best to make everything normal. Now it is public to accept that it's a natural calamity. It can happen anytime, but let us keep calm and quiet and try to be safe ourselves and save our family. So that's the only thing I can tell you.
Jay Shankar Mukherjee, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best. That's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from across the world. Thank you.